So this is the Gaggia Coffee espresso machine. I've got it on CraigsList for $250. I have a PID temperature controller installed. You can order PID kits for a Gaggia. It'll cost you around $200 for an auber. This does the same thing. This has just been a hobby of mine. I collect these Gaggia machines. They're kind of like stray dogs. They come to me because I know how to completely tear them apart and rebuild them and improve on them. And I've been doing this for over 20 years. So this machine works really well. It's an older one, but the boiler is clean, the pump works well, and with the PID you get really great temperature stability. If I turn it on, this one reads out in Celsius. I'm so old I was taught centigrade, but apparently centigrade is an obsolete term and it's Celsius now. But 100 degrees is boiling, so this is set at 102, which I find to be really good. Now I've added this thermometer. This has a little bead down here on the group head, and it helps me to see when the boilers actually come up to temperature. The PID will hold the boiler itself up to temperature. The heaters are on the outside of the boiler, but the water inside the boiler takes a little time to absorb that. So even though the temperature reading up here might say 102, right now it's saying 96, but when it gets up, 102 is the set point. When it gets up to 102, then it still takes a couple of minutes for the water inside to reach that same temperature. And as it does, it starts heating up the mass down here. There's a lot of brass and metal down here far away from the heater. That's always going to be quite a bit cooler. So having this thermometer helps me know when the whole thing is heated up. These machines are capable of making great espresso, but what drives a lot of people crazy with them is trying to get the same temperature every time. Without the PID, you could be 20 degrees too hot or 20 degrees too cool. It's got a really wide band. Maybe not 20, but 10 or 15 degrees too hot or too cool. So it's really a struggle to get consistent shot temperatures, but with the PID it makes it a piece of cake. You just turn it on and it holds the temperature right where you set it. Now what I find is if I wait until this gets up to around 83, 82, 83, and that usually takes 10 minutes or so, when you first turn it on in the morning. Let me capture some. Just wanted to make sure the boiler was all topped up and full of water. And while we're waiting for it to heat up, let me show you that the pump is putting out proper pressure. Let's see. I've got a portafilter modified with a pressure gauge on it. I'm going to put this under there to catch the drips. And now you'll see that's about 10 bars. And that's just exactly what you want when you're pulling a shot. I tend to make very small shots, 1.5 to 2 ounces. I use 14 grams, 15 grams of coffee, but it's right there where you want it to be, right around 9-10 bars of pressure. So there's that. Now I've put a thermocouple temperature sensor, and this is to simulate the coffee puck. It's a little espresso filter simulating a coffee puck. I'm reading in Fahrenheit, just I tend to I can flip over here so it's reading in centigrade. If I were to pull a shot right now, it's not really heated up. See, this is only saying 72. Plus, when I stuck that on there, this is cold, so that sucked a lot of the heat out of it. So I would get a more consistent shot temperature. If I tried to pull a shot right now, it's going to be rather cool. And I like to think in Fahrenheit for some reason when I'm thinking of in the coffee cup. 198, 200 degrees Fahrenheit, 198, 196 is the range. You know, dependent on your coffee. If you might have some coffees that you want to pull at 195 degrees Fahrenheit, or you might want it at 198, or you might want it at 203. I don't think there's many coffees you'd ever want to go higher than 203. That's pretty hot. But I think 212 is boiling point in Fahrenheit. You want it under boiling, but I find my personal taste, the coffee I pull, I want it around 198 to 200, maybe as low as 196. If I were to try to pull a shot right now, I'm guessing, this is only up to 78, I'm guessing I'm going to be around 195, 196. Let's see. Yeah, 195. I forgot to put a cup under there, but that's why you have a drip tray. So you notice the lights flashing here. You also see it over here. That's every time the PID is turning the heat on in the boiler. And it's monitoring the rate of change, how quickly the boiler is changing temperature, and it's using that to decide how frequently and for how long to flash the heat. So these Gaggia machines make really great espresso. The one drawback they have compared to a $3,000 or $4,000 commercial espresso machine, I mean, they have the same portafilter, you know, full-size professional portafilter, nice heavy brass. In a lot of ways, this has everything that a real professional espresso machine has. The main difference is that it has a very small boiler. So when you pull a shot, you can't pull a second one just immediately after, because the boiler it doesn't hold very much hot water, and you just used all that hot water in the shot you just pulled. So it takes a few minutes to get that water hot again, all the fresh water that you just pumped into the boiler. And that's why it wouldn't make a good commercial espresso machine, because you couldn't pull. If you had two people that both wanted espressos, the second guy's not going to get his for 5 minutes after the first guy does, because you need to wait 3 or 4 minutes. Okay, it's up over 80. It's almost 82. Let's see what temperature we get. And see, that's pretty perfect. And this is actually a little, that's about almost 2 ounces. That's probably 1.8, 1.9 ounces. And that's about the size I pull an espresso shot. Because I don't actually have coffee in there, it's coming out a little faster than it would. If I actually had coffee in there, it would be resisting the water coming through. The pressure would build up a little higher. But it's still, pretty valid test of showing what the temperature is. So I would, if I tried to pull another one right now, I'm betting I'm not going to get, it's going to be down around 192, 193 degrees, I suspect. I really should wait for this to get back up, to 82. But let's see how quickly. The PID does work really well at recovering, so you don't have to wait too long. And I'm not pausing this video, I'm just letting it run in real time. So It's probably pretty boring to watch while you're sitting waiting for it to come up to heat. Let's try it again when it hits 82. When this says 82, I'll pretend we just ground our coffee and packed our puck. There's 82. And there we got the perfect temperature again. Now it starts to drop towards the end, and that's because this is pumping it out much faster than it would be. If you actually had coffee in there, it would take you 30 seconds to have pumped this much water that I just pumped out in 5 seconds, and the temperature wouldn't have dropped that fast. It would have held the temperature up. But anyway, you can see everything works. You could, if you wanted to steam, you could just change your temperature over there on the PID and let it control a steaming temperature. And some people do that, or you can just use the steam switch. It's easier for me. I actually never steam. This has this. Let me take this off. This has. Some people like really frothy milk. And this artificially froths it up by injecting air into it. I would use it without this, just use this, and use proper steaming techniques to steam your milk. And this actually works really well. It'll steam your milk if you're into milk drinks. I just drink concentrated coffee. I pull coffee that's very thick and concentrated. It's almost like coffee syrup. Just little 1.5 ounce shots. Personal taste. Other people like cappuccinos and mostly milk with just a little coffee in it, and that's not me. There you go. Hoping that somebody out there would give this a happy home, because I've enjoyed, and I enjoyed putting the PID on it. All right, there's that. Bye bye.